Hello, and welcome to It Takes a Village. My name is Tuesdaé Knight. I'm the president and CEO of SAGE, San Antonio for Growth on the East Side. It Takes a Village is an intimate discussion with community leaders, members, and people that are doing some pretty great stuff in the community of San Antonio. So our goal is to elevate discussions on current topics, events, things that are going to keep our community updated and involved in what's going on in our city. So today's guest is SA 2020 President and CEO, Molly Cox.
Me.
Ew. Thank you for being here today. So happy to have some coffee with you. Excited, and it is coffee. See, coffee. So a little bit about Molly. Originally, she's from Corpus Christi, Texas. She began her career in radio and television before serving as the director of the University of Texas San Antonio Center for Policy Studies. Mouthful. She has been honored with the 2017 San Antonio Business Journal Women's Leadership Award and as the 2017 Estrella Award winner for Healthy Futures of Texas. And in 2018, Molly was named Best City Advocate by the San Antonio Magazine. Pretty awesome. Yeah. A certified nonprofit leader through the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance with a BA in theater from Texas A&M Corpus Christi and a master's degree in political science from the University of Texas in San Antonio, also known as UTSA. Molly Cox has served on the selection committees for Texas Governor's Volunteer Awards and the San Antonio Ethics in Business Awards. And if you've ever been in anything in San Antonio, Molly is everywhere and pretty awesome to begin with. So with that, we're so happy to have you here, Molly. And I have all these questions and things that I want to ask you, but I'm kind of drawn to the shoe that's directly behind you. Tell me a little bit about that.
This shoe right here?
That shoe right there.
I don't know if you're aware.
Probably not.
But I enjoy a Converse.
And I did know that. I lied. I knew that.
I'm like, you know that. These Converse, however, let me bring them closer. These Converse, let me see if you can, I don't know if you can see, there's a B and an O.
I see that.
It says Barack Obama.
I see that.
Obama. These are Barack Obama signed Converse. I'm sure they should be in like some kind of like shadow box or
bubble or
they're just on a bookshelf. They're sitting on top of books, all written by like Hillary Rodham Clinton. There's a Michelle Obama. Remember when Michelle Obama, before becoming, which was brilliant, P.S. Mm-hmm. She also had a book about like the gardening that they did at the White House. That's also signed by Michelle Obama. I'm just saying I have some things.
Pretty cool things, it seems like.
By the Obamas, because we're friends.
Apparently. And I didn't get that message, but that's okay. I'm not going to hold that against you.
We don't text. Like the Obama, we don't text.
Yeah, but you have a shoe and a book and it's signed.
And I've met him. I met Michelle Obama, who is literally everything that you want her to be. Like,
I believe it.
She's
also actually my best friend in my mind. So, yeah.
Same.
Same. Good. So now that we've shared a love of the Obamas, why don't you tell me, because SA 2020, we're in 2020. So tell me a little bit about your organization.
I will. I will first say, when your organization is called SA 2020, and then 2020 happens to be this year.
Because it's a fun year. There's so many amazing things happening, like a pandemic, wildfires.
I apologize on behalf of the world. There was a joke actually running for a hot minute where people would be like, what happens in San Antonio in the year 2020? And I'd be like, the whole city implodes. And I didn't know that we had that kind of control.
You said that several years ago.
Right.
Oh, so this is your fault.
I apologize is what I'm saying. I apologize. SA 2020 is a 10-year visioning process. It got started in 2010, and we set goals for the entire community. About 6,000 people came together and said, what do we want to be in the next decade? And 2020 was the year for the goals, right? That we would see an increase in college attainment, an increase in high school graduation rates, an increase in the amount of employment in target industries, an increase in certifications, a decrease in commute time, for example, right? Across the board, we track 62 indicators. SA 2020 is the organization, an independent nonprofit organization whose job it is to track whether we are getting closer to or further away from the vision we all set out a decade ago. We also have about 170 plus multi-sector institutional partners who have aligned their micro efforts, so the things that they are doing every day, to our shared community goals. And we track those as well. Are they aligned? Are they actually moving the needle? Do they do the things that they think that they're doing? Are they meeting community needs? I think when it first got started back in 2010, everybody thought, okay, in 2020, and then it'll be over, right? We're done. And what we have found is more people have been participating in our engagement efforts, have become partners. They understand sort of the value of having a shared community vision and working towards that together. And I think particularly in the year 2020, when we have seen a pandemic sort of lay bare for us, that our community is definitely has challenges, has compounded need, that we have more work to do as a community also. And so we very specifically and strategically said, hey, in the year 2020, we know we're going to want to monitor for the next decade. So what if San Antonio, who is, by the way, the only large city in the United States of America that has a shared community vision, 170 plus multi-sector institutions actively aligning their work to shared goals, and a separate independent nonprofit organization, SA 2020, that's monitoring that. What if we just said, hey, every 10 years, let's make sure that we're reaffirming and strengthening that vision for the next decade. That's, in a nutshell, who we are. Every time that I say that, I think of Austin Powers, and I'm like, this is me in a nutshell. That's like generally sort of who we are, what we do.
Right. And all of these things you're talking about are not from Molly Cox's brain, right? This is all when 2010 happened, because I remembered you brought groups together. Tell me about that process, how that came about.
Yeah, it's so funny that we're talking today. So I literally just finished an interview with a guy by the name of Julian Castro. I don't know if anybody remembers that guy. I don't. He was mayor for San Antonio, and then where'd he go? He was mayor at the time in 2010, and said, I think we need to do a visioning process. We've been growing as a community. We really need to sort of set our values. Who do we want to be? What do we want to look like in the next decade? And in 2010, nearly 6,000 people came together and sort of said, this is what we want to look like. These are the measures we could track to know whether we were getting closer to or further away from that sort of vision, that nirvana. And usually what occurs after that kind of process takes place, right, is it comes out in a report, we stick it on a shelf and like, hey, we did that thing. And then 10 years later, we all say, let's try something new, right? Miraculously. And I think it's partially because in his wisdom, he was like, being smart, and also as a nonprofit CEO, I'm irritated by it because I have to raise money every year. He said, right. He said, hey, let's make this an independent nonprofit. Let's not keep it at the city. Let's not put it on a shelf. Let's make it real. So I think, right, the fact that the community came together and said, this is where we want to go. And then the community also said, and this is how we would know if we got there. These are the metrics. And then we have this separate nonprofit who's also monitoring data, but then saying like, hey, an example, in 2010, we weren't really talking about digital access, for example. We weren't. In 2015, we started talking about it. We know that we have a pretty big digital divide in San Antonio and Bexar County. So we started tracking digital access, right? So our job really is to sort of monitor the community at large, see where there are gaps or assets, and be very transparent about the information. Where are some of our community members doing better than others? Where should we be pivoting our resources, our efforts, our services, our programs to really meet community need in an effort to achieve this vision, not for one person or one sector or one section or one neighborhood, but for everyone.
For the entire city of San Antonio. So that's 1.5 million people. So you just mentioned services, programs. What do you have that you offer for the community regarding that?
Yeah, so our entire website is open and available to the community at large. I say that because it's important for us to know where we are so that we know where we need to go, right? What do we need to influence? SA 2020 fully believes that everyone is capable of affecting change. Every single person. We are where we are today because of the systems that make up the way in which we operate, right? And if the systems we created and made up are not serving members of our community, and let's be clear that they're not, right? If the systems are bad, or if the systems need to be disrupted or changed or fixed, then we believe as individuals who make up those systems, then we are capable of disrupting them, right? So we also believe then that it's important for us to know where we are. So an example, let's talk COVID-19. In the year 2020, COVID-19 is on top of everybody's mind. When COVID-19 first started, SA 2020 very quickly began trending the data, the health data. We had heard, right, nationally that that Black folks were for sure being the disparities in catching and dying from COVID-19 were exponentially bigger than any other community, right? And we were like, okay, we're hearing about it nationally, what's happening locally? And we couldn't find the trended data. So we went ahead and trended the data and found disproportionately that our Black San Antonians, neighbors in council districts 2 and 10 specifically, were dying, catching and dying from COVID at exponential rates. And to us, we started hearing, right, you're hearing it in national, but you're also hearing it locally, that there were these things called pre-existing conditions. I'm putting that in air quotes because we also know, because we've been trending the data, that our Black neighbors, Black San Antonians have lower rates, are served lower rates by healthcare, are disproportionately impacted by unemployment. Per capita income is lower. High school graduation rates are lower. And what we try very desperately to help people see is that this is all interrelated. This isn't through the fault of or through the problems of, we have been not serving as a system institutionally our Black San Antonians, Latino San Antonians, San Antonians of color for years, right? So what are we doing about it? And if we have a community vision that says, no matter your zip code, you've got educational opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to prosper economically, that you can have transportation options, no matter whether you walk, ride, wheel, or drive, then we have some work to do. And it's in pivoting our services, our efforts, our resource allocations to the areas that need it the most. And we have a decade of data that can show you when we meet San Antonians, when we meet the need of San Antonians who need it most, the entire community ultimately benefits.
Right. And so that's, some of the discussion that we've been having with some of our other web guests is that those numbers right now are just so disproportionate from lack of access to a lot of things, right? So we've got healthcare, we've got education, we've got all those things. So that information, people can find that on your website?
Right, sa2020.org. Every year we do an annual report and we show you with 62 community indicators disaggregated by race, gender, age, geography where available. You can see exactly where community need is. It allows for, one of my biggest pet peeves, I'm ready, this is me getting up in arms, is when we hear that there's infinite need and finite resources, and we hear it all the time, right? Our business community says it, our local elected officials say it. infinite need, finite resources. And I assure you, as an organization who spends a lot of time tracking, monitoring, analyzing, looking at results, and then checking out the data to see if we're closer to that result or further away from, it's not infinite need. We know exactly where the need is. And if we were to really pool our resources, if we were to be serious about it, if we were to really target our services and our efforts and our resources in the areas that need them most, it would shift San Antonio as a whole. And what I think that takes is a shift in our mentality of either or this or that, and start to think about both also, yes, and being very bold about saying like, hey, we're gonna do this, and let's evaluate it and see how the whole community ultimately benefits.
Absolutely. And so, you know, a lot of the work that you do or did pre-apocalypse was community engagement and getting out and meeting people and talking to people. And so, you know, I know you had a lot of community events, you had a lot of engagement. How are you doing that now? What are you doing with all of your events and your work this year?
Oh man, you're like hitting it on the head, right? So we were anticipating, we're a decade into a community vision. We knew we wanted to reaffirm and strengthen it for another 10 years. And nearly 6,000 people participated the first round. We wanted to make sure that we got more than that this next round. And we also wanted to be very clear about representation. We wanted to know that the people who generally participated least, and I'm using that phrase very specifically, right? We know that San Antonians of color, older San Antonians, particularly very young San Antonians, don't participate in public processes. They mostly because they're just not asked, right? Mm-hmm. They're not met where they are and asked questions. So we were very clear. We have about 70 ambassadors, you included. Thank you so much. On purpose, we selected 70 ambassadors across our community to help us sort of, we know that public participation happens, community engagement happens when people trust the person asking them to come to the table. So we identified 70 ambassadors. We have 170 plus partners who also have trusted relationships within the community of people that they're serving and meeting needs of. And we said very specifically, we want them to participate in helping us affirm and strengthen the community vision for the next decade. How can we do that? So, you know, we started this year strong. We knew we'd have at least one, if not 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 events per month where we were going to various areas. And then COVID happened and we went virtual. And today I can tell you nearly 11,000 people, so a 45% increase, have participated in reaffirming and strengthening San Antonio's community vision. We are fully transparent in our engagement efforts, and you can find that also online. You can see exactly who has participated, who has said what are the areas that are rising to the top. And right now, you can help tell us, are we missing something? Did something not get into the community vision that you think should be tracked? Or are there words missing? Are there phrases that should be strengthened? You can do that, again, through our website. And you can also do that through our ambassadors, through our partner organizations. There is not a human being in San Antonio that we don't want to hear from. So if 1.5 million people want to chime in, babies are writing it in, that's fine. 1.5 million people want to chime in on what they want to see over the next 10 years, we're welcome. We want to hear it.
And they can just go to your website, fill out this questionnaire. And so what are you seeing as that are trends right now that are some of the responses?
Yeah, so when we first started pre-pandemic, right? So this is January, February, early March-ish. Transportation was rising to the top as the thing people wanted to see changed most specifically. Like they were like transportation, and that ranges. I'm putting that into a theme: public transit, traffic, bike lanes, walkability. Right? About a third of the responses that came in around transportation were around public transportation. which we can, like, that would take us down a rabbit hole of, let's talk public transportation. Uh, that didn't change after the pandemic. Public transportation was still rising to the top. What we have seen for the last decade that has always risen to the top as like the number one priority when people are filling this information out is always education, and that has happened again.
Right.
Education is like, man, if we could figure out education, we could figure out the world, right? So that's still rising to the top. So those are the two major themes. We're seeing a lot around culture, and I'm using that word very specifically. When we were doing, the way that we do engagement is very open-ended. We don't want to sort of guide people and figure out, sort of push them towards an answer. We want it to be open-ended. We want them to announce like, hey, this is what we're finding most important. Culture was rising to the top. And when I say culture, what was interesting is that you would see very specifically, like this very great proportion of answers around culture when it came to sort of prior to 300 years of tricentennial, right? Like long before, making sure that we're paying attention to our history and culture. East Side culture was rising to the top, right? Like there's a very specific space around East Side culture. So the word culture was what we found in the conversations that we were having and the information we were receiving, was that the word culture carried with it such a weight. And somehow inside that word also landed like San Antonio generally, right? Like when you use the word culture and history in San Antonio, the things that rise in someone's brain are like multifold, right? So that rose to the top a lot. We started to see very specifically April, May, June, we started to see civic engagement rising to the top, specifically as it related to voting or getting involved in local government. Community safety started to hit, and shockingly, community safety was hitting, and police, the word police was not rising.
It was not?
No. So when people were talking about community safety, they were talking about, right, economic development and education and housing and affordability, right? So they were utilizing words like safety and safe, but they weren't saying police, which again, there's something to be said for when you allow a person to have a conversation, and when you say your words matter, your feedback matters, when I can utilize the information, that it changes the way we have conversations, I think. And what I believe a community vision does is sort of recalibrate a conversation to shared values. I've never put the community vision in front of anyone, and we have, as we've been around for nearly a decade, so we've spoken to everyone, like everybody, all types of, everywhere in San Antonio, doesn't matter your political affiliation. The conversations that we're having today, where it feels so polarized and angry, and I've never put the community vision in front of a single human being and found that they disagreed with the values inside that vision. I've never had anyone say to me, I disagree that educational opportunities should be for everyone, no matter their zip code. I've never had a single person say economic prosperity, we don't care. No matter who you are, you deserve it, right? Housing affordability, transportation, access generally, right? Environmental sustainability. When we put the vision in front of anyone, they're like, yeah, agreed. Where we start to see that like falter or shift or change is when we get to the how. Well, how do we achieve that? What
right.
is,
we know what the issues are. What do we do about them now?
That is different. And that's a conversation I think we can all have. If we agree on values, right? If we agree on who we are as a community, what we want to see, and I know I'm speaking in generalization, so let's get rid of the outliers. We know that the outliers exist, and we're never going to win them over. We're never going to have that conversation. The vast majority of people value similar things. And I say that as a person who literally puts a vision in front of people and says yes, and always yes. That I think is the thing that sort of keeps us going at SA 2020.
Right.
Like, I don't know that we could do this work if we felt like we were just consistently up against, like, people saying, nah, we don't care about educational opportunity for everybody, right? Yeah.
So anybody watching this, what would you encourage them to do? Would you encourage them to go to your website? Would you encourage them to, use their voice? What would you want our viewers to know about your organization, what they can do?
Yeah, so I definitely want feedback from the questionnaire that's out right now. Please tell us, right? We need your feedback, obviously. Our website shows you where we are today, and technically where we are last year, right? Because data always runs late, and we've now had COVID-19. On purpose, we've created dashboards, up-to-date dashboards, specifically COVID related, around unemployment and who is unemployed and who is looking for jobs. Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. One is, vote. Vote, vote, and then vote again. I think you're allowed to vote twice. I don't know.
I heard somebody say that you could.
I think you can vote like you can mail it, and then you can.
We're kidding.
So kidding. We're so kidding. Please don't vote twice. Vote is voting, and voting in every election. The annoying ones about Texas Constitution, every amendments, vote in them. Vote all the time.
Yep.
So vote is important. Yeah, go to our website and see how you can engage in the questionnaire and reaffirming and strengthening the community vision. We need your voice. Your civic engagement doesn't stop at voting. And I know that you have people who are watching right now who know that specifically, like clearly know that. And also, I don't know that everybody knows that, right? Like, once you vote, oh man, stay on it, right? Contact your council member, make sure you're applying for boards and commissions, apply for nonprofit boards.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
you did some stuff with nonprofit boards a little while ago, didn't you?
We did, and thank you for joining that committee as well. We did do a something called the board game, which we'll be bringing back. We paused it because we went virtual and nonprofits were sort of like trying to figure things out. We had asked our nonprofit partners, hey, tell us about your boards. We're like 600 openings.
Wow.
Nonprofit partners. And we have like 150-ish nonprofit partners. 600 board openings. So then we asked, hey, is anybody interested in getting new board members? About 47 organizations said we're in. Joined our something called the board game, and gave us the demographics of their boards. Overwhelmingly white, not shocking, and also
not shocking.
We have the data, right? Overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly male, overwhelmingly over 50.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for those of us who have ever applied or joined a board, that's not shocking. And also, why is that? Mm-hmm. Right? And overwhelmingly what we were hearing from nonprofits was, we need younger people. We also know that when a board is made up of the people that they represent, that their policies, that their services, that their programs are stronger. Mm-hmm. So we set out to fill some board seats, and we thought, we'll figure it out. 138 people later, 138 people trained and matched to organizations across San Antonio, overwhelmingly younger women of color, have joined boards across San Antonio and have made their organization stronger. And it's, again, part of, oh man, and you know this, like, I'm going to say it, and then everybody who's watching is also going to nod their heads. First of all, women never apply for anything.
Thank you.
We want to check the box, every single box. Dudes are like, hey dudes, you're solid, and also shush. The dudes are like, yeah, I checked a box, I'm fine. Women overwhelmingly are like, I don't know that I check every single box. Multiply that by 10 for women of color who were like, and then I don't know if I check the box with the biggest check. We saw that over and over again. My favorite story to tell about the board game is there were 2 attorneys who applied, both from the same law firm, man, woman of color, man of color, both applied for the board game, both attorneys at the same law firm, both similar in ages. One of the questions we asked was like, hey, just rank yourself on expertise. And one of the expert levels was on law. The dude, I'm an expert. Obviously, he's an attorney.
Yeah.
And the woman was like, I mean, I guess I could learn something.
You know what? Molly, I just actually said that the other day, and no offense again, guys, I know we're kind of attacking you a little bit, but it's kind of truthful. I think one of the reasons why men are so good at it is because they're used to rejection, right? I mean, I think it's like a numbers game, and it's one of those, hey, I'm going to go ahead and apply for this, even though I have one of the qualifications. And women, if there's 10, he'll say there's 1 or 2, I got this, I'm going to apply. And a woman is going to say, well, I only have 8, so I'm not going to apply. What?
Yeah, it's true. It's like, I think when it's also right, when we think of leaders, we immediately are conjured up a dude. Like that's what we've been trained as humans, right? Leaders are dudes. Women are sort of like in the backs. And I think about this all the time. It's like, think about sort of like now we have women in leadership awards or whatever, but when we're thinking about it overwhelmingly, and we actually did a demographic study at SA 2020 of our nonprofit partners, overwhelmingly, the nonprofit sector is run by white women, typically older, and then on the opposite side, our for-profit companies are run by white dudes in San Antonio, Texas, who has 63% Latino, 8% African American or Black, right? Like, I'm overwhelmingly run by white people. And I say that as a white woman CEO of a nonprofit organization. And I'm like, oh, it's just an opportunity for us to understand where we stand, see what we might be able to shift, and then ultimately jump in and get involved, which is why I'm saying, hey, vote, apply for stuff, truly, apply for nonprofit boards, apply for boards and commissions, contact your council member, use Twitter, use Facebook, use phones, use texts, use whatever, right?
Because they look at those. They look at those.
The amount of times that I've had conversations with elected officials and said, tell me who responded to that. Like, right, they'll say stuff like, my constituents are saying, and then whatever, fill in the blank. And I'm like, who are your constituents? Who's calling you? Who's emailing you? And they're like, oh, and like, what would it look like if we were, because so few people contact council members, 25 people's a lot, right?
Yeah.
I've got 25 friends. We can all contact you. And what would it look like if we had concentrated mass? And I think part of it is in helping local elected officials understand, right, representative government, that they represent a large swath of human beings, and that things are changing. We can contact them in multiple ways. So I'm like, contact your elected officials. I cannot stress enough, if you are just now, I get this a lot, hey, I just now heard that this organization exists and that this thing exists and we can participate. Great, welcome to the fold. Tell everybody you know about it. The community vision is for everyone. It is not for one person. Anybody can pick up the community vision and run with it. And I cannot stress enough that we are all part of the systems that we seek to change. What is your sphere of influence and how are you influencing it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, I know that people really don't know how to use their voice right now. People are struggling and they're, trying to figure out how to speak out on so many different things. We've spoken to so many different leaders on this series alone who are saying, speak up, say something. And we've got SA 2020 saying, speak up, say something. So definitely go to their website, definitely go fill out their questionnaires, and just follow all that information that's on the dashboard. So I know we're about to wrap up, Molly, but I have to ask the most important question, because I told my team that we were talking with you, one of the questions was, all right, SA 2020. So what do we do in SA 2021? What are we going to do with your name?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we are in the midst of reaffirming, strengthening the community vision for the next decade. SA 2020 has had a weird trajectory, right? It was both the original process by which we were creating the vision, and it was the date, right, that it was over.
That it was going to be done.
Right, and then it's over. I used to say the city would implode, and I apologize for saying it. I'm still apologizing. I'll apologize forever for that. So the community vision will now take us to 2030, and it looks like SA 2020 as a nonprofit is going to stick around. And I don't know if we're changing our name, because that brand recognition is pretty important.
Built up for 10 years.
That's right. But I think we may be doing a brand refresh. And that will happen in January of 2021 when we release the new community vision. We release a brand new brand. I said brand twice in a sentence, but it's fine. We'll release a new brand. So we'll have new community vision in 2021. We'll have a new brand for our organization, or a refreshed brand, I guess I should say. And we will have more people in the fold. And hopefully, right, more to look forward to in recovery and understanding of who we are as a community. I am absolutely convinced, and if you're serious about, like, hey, if you're in a funk and you need something to look at that just reminds you of like who we are as a community and what our humanity is, go to weisgreater.org. Right after the pandemic hit, SA 2020 started just paying attention to who was pivoting very quickly. Like what were the organizations doing? What were institutions doing? What were human beings doing? And it's a beautiful sort of testament to who we are as San Antonio, right? So it's institutions and individuals who shifted quickly to like just provide to our community. Weisgreater.org. I say that because there is a, man, it's you saying, like, everybody keeps saying use your voice and get involved, and I'm like, oh man, it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Absolutely.
What's going on right now. And I say it's exhausting for me, and who, right? I can't imagine how exhausting it is for somebody who's struggling, for somebody who doesn't have the means by which to pay their rent or figure it out. And there are moments where we need to stop for a second and just take stock of who is in our community, understand that we are a community that does have shared values, that there are outliers that we absolutely are more capable of drowning out than we are doing. And how great it is as an organization that is saying, hey, we will continue to have a clear vision for the future. And it just so happens that that clear vision is also 2020.
Absolutely. And in this year that's been so fun. So, I think empathy is one of the things that is very, very important during this year, right? And it's not just a word in the dictionary, but it's something that we need to have as a community. And so, you do so much in taking stock of what's happening in our community and publicizing that information. What else do you want our viewers to know about SA 2020 that, they may not know?
I would say that SA 2020 is an organization, a very small organization of all women. We're 5 strong.
5 strong women. I'll say that too.
5 strong women. We are committed to San Antonio. We have no agenda other than the community's agenda. Our job is to be transparent and open. And when we say that, we mean it. So on our website, you will find all 5 of our team members. You will find all 5 of our email addresses. We want to hear from you. It may take us a minute to get back to you. because there's 5 of us. But we will get back to you. I think we, every single morning, the 5 women in our office wake up with San Antonio on our brains first. And how can we make our community better? And more specifically, how can we make the community feel like it's everyone's? This year has been horrible for many. And how do we keep offering grace and empathy and patience and a little bit of humor?
Yeah, well, we'll take a little humor and a little coffee.
Maybe coffee.
Mine is coffee, people. Okay, so anyway, with that, Molly, thank you so much. This has been really, really informative. And, you know, the whole purpose of these is so that we can get information out. And maybe just to get a couple people who may not have known what SA 2020 is or does or what they provide. So please, please, please go to the website. And the website is?
sa2020.org.
Easy enough. So Molly, thank you so much for being here with us today. Again, we're going to keep the conversation going. We're going to keep having these series. It Takes a Village is for everyone. It is information that you want. So if there's something that we miss and you want to hear about, please contact us. If you missed any of the other series, please go to sagesa.org and find that information there, or go to our newsletter and you can find the information there. We will also have links to this wonderful series on there. So again, please stay safe, please stay informed, and of course, please stay Eastside strong. Have a great day, everyone. And Molly, cheers to you, friend, for all that you're doing for SA 2020 in a year that 2020 sucks.
It sucks so bad. Also, I know you're trying to wrap up, and I'm going to just say this because I can. Sage is a partner of SA 2020's, and you have been an amazing supporter of our work, but you are also like always thinking about how you can be stronger in what you're doing in your own organization, how you are supporting your own members and your businesses and the East Side. And listen, I'm a fan.
Thank you. And I did not ask her to say that, but thank you for saying that. And again, I think that's another thing that I think I love the most about you, Molly, is the, you know, first of all, you're just a compassionate person, but also, you know, women need to support women, and we need to say, hey, just because you got something doesn't mean that I can't have something. I can be your biggest cheerleader and still want things for myself. So women out there, know that it is possible to be a compassionate, empathetic, and wonderful human being like Molly Cox is. And again, please make sure that you get your voice out. Vote, go to sa2020.org and get some information and help us out. So with that being said, everyone enjoy your day, be safe, be healthy, and again, stay Eastside strong. Take care, everybody.